I'm Ori. I'm from the premium team at Wix. Welcome to the webinar. We are so excited to introduce you to the world of Wix Studio, the web creation platform built for agencies and freelancers, where you can deliver exceptional, high-quality sites in the most efficient way. The platform was designed with you in mind, covering the many layers of creating and managing multiple projects while maintaining quality. Today, we're going to talk about dynamic content. What you're going to see today is how to build dynamic content with Wix Studio by one of our very own, Noé Miscav, Head of Product and UX at CMS, who's here with us right now. We will manage questions and comments a bit differently, so help us not to miss you. There are lots of participants, and we will try to address every single question. We have 2 Q&A professionals with us, and they will reply to you while the presenter presents. So this is how it's going to play out. Questions. If you guys have any questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Q&A box is not the chat box you are all familiar with, so I just want to make sure you know where the Q&A button is located. For any comments, you can use the chat box for commenting. Just be sure to use all panelists and attendees so we can see and address any comments. This session is being recorded, and it will be available afterwards for you to watch back and recap if you need. And it's also important to note that this is only a small glimpse into the Wix Studio world. So anything we cover, you'll find tons more info and learning resources in our academy, like our Wix Studio Essentials course, how-to tutorials, and any other webinars at wix.com/studio/academy. And if you haven't already, please join our forum, Wix Studio Forum. We've got so many UX professionals, designers, product managers there that are actively answering questions, and lots of lively discussions are happening there. So sign up to join those conversations. So that's enough talking for me. I'd like to now hand you over to Noé.
Thank you, Oli. So hi, I'm Noé. I'm gonna talk to you today about the CMS. So what we'll cover today, we'll start with some basic. We want to align first on the essential of what is it a CMS, what is dynamic content, what can we do with it, different sites you can build with the CMS for inspiration, and then we'll jump to the demo to show you how it really works in the Wix Studio and how to really use the dynamic content and the CMS. So we will start with the really basic. What is a CMS? So CMS stands for Content Management System. It's actually a software application that lets you create, store, and manage your digital content. In our case, we're talking about content that we store in order to display eventually in a site. So let's look at it from a site perspective. You know the site page. Here it's an example of a real estate property page. So we can say that this page has some structure, right? We can say that it has different content pieces. So let's try to map them. I can say I have this piece, which is the title of the property. This piece is the price. Here is the type, which is buy or rent. And here I have an image. So I can take these content pieces and map them into a structure, into a table. Each piece gets a field in a table. And you can see here, this name becomes the property name. And the image is the thumbnail image. And the buy is the type of the property. This is the structure of the content of the property, of the real estate property of this page. This mapping actually creates a table for me that now I can use, I can put my entire list of properties in. Eventually, what I get is a place where I manage all the content, which is the CMS. And of course, eventually, I will connect it somehow to the display layer, to where I want to display that content. So the content is managed in the CMS, and it's being displayed on the site pages. The content on the site pages then becomes dynamic content. So when we say dynamic content, what do we really mean? So a site page, or a site in general, can have 2 types of content. It can have static content and dynamic content. Let's see the differences. So Static content is what you know up until today. You are using it in your website on a daily basis, I guess. It's the content that directly added to the page itself, like an About Us page. I will write it in the editor, and if I would like to change that content, I will go into that editor and will change it in the specific page it's written. It's usually content that I don't change too often. Then the dynamic content. Dynamic content, it means that it's content that it's managed separately from where it appears. And then it's dynamically injected to my website pages. And then the content, it appears based on the content in the CMS. It's usually like, if I want to manage that, I go to the CMS. It's really good for content that I update often. So let's imagine I will go back to the static content concept. Let's imagine I have hundreds of properties in my site. If I'll use a static page for each one, and I will design it a page for each one of the properties, it won't be that convenient. Think about if I want to change the design of this page. I will need to go page by page and change the design for hundreds of items. Imagine I have thousands of items. So it doesn't really make sense, right? If I'll use the concept of dynamic content, I can actually use dynamic page. Dynamic page is a way for me to create a template page, which I control the structure of it and then connect it to that CMS that we talked about. And then by one click, I just get out of the box pages based on the content on the items I stored in my CMS. So now if I want to change the font or the design, I just change it in the template and it immediately appears in all my properties. So the first value of using dynamic content is in terms of design efficiency. As we said with dynamic content, I design a page once and then multiple pages are automatically generated based on the content in the CMS. The next value I want to mention here is the fact that if I'm using the CMS, I have one centralized place to control all my content. So imagine I have a property that appears in different places on my site. It appears on the page of the property itself. It appears in the list of all my properties. Also, I can have it in my homepage, in the featured properties section. If I'll use the CMS, I just need to change the content in that table that we saw. And by hitting save, it will just reflect in all places where this content appears. So the second value is actually the content managing the efficiency. So with dynamic content, I can change the content in one place and see it reflected throughout the site right away. So let's see some real examples to understand what we can do with it. So we can do a small exercise now. We have 3 sites here. Let's try to think which site needs dynamic content. So we have first site, which is a marketing agency that wants to list want to list their team members and their bios. The second site is a wedding site, a website for my event that I want to share with my friends and family. And the third one is trip recommendations, where I want to list my favorite trip destinations and share it with my friends. So the marketing agency is actually a great candidate for using dynamic content. So let's think why. Probably all team members has the same structure. They all have name, role, picture, description, LinkedIn link. Also, it's content that I might change oftenly. I will want to change some team members joining the team, some team members leave the team, some team members change positions. So it will be great to just manage it in a CMS, and all changes will be just injected to the site with no additional effort. A wedding site eventually can also use dynamic content, but it won't really benefit from it because it's probably one-time site. I won't edit it a lot. I won't have content changes often. It probably doesn't hold a lot of content. So I probably won't choose to use dynamic content in such a site. Trip recommendation is another good example of good candidate for dynamic content, since, again, all trip destination might hold the same structure of the date I was traveling, the place, the image, the description, and I might add more and more destination as long as I keep traveling. So I hope it gave you a clue of what's the differences and how can I distinguish when to use dynamic content or not. Let's see it visually for a second. So team members will look kind of something like that. I will have a collection. This is how we call it in Wix, where I store the content of my team members. Then I will have a dynamic list page, which lists all of my team members connected to that collection, and another dynamic item page, which is connected to that collection and generates a page for each team member. How exactly it will work, we'll soon see in the demo. Another nice example is job listing. I want to have a list of a lot of jobs which have the same structure. I don't want to create a page for each. I don't want to create a static repeater or a static list. I want it to come from that CMS. And then I have one page for the job, which is the job page, which will show different job based on the content from the CMS. Of course, each site can have more than only one content entity. For example, in this school site, I have one collection for news and updates, one collection for projects, one collection for staff. So each holds a list of something else, but all use dynamic content. So to sum it up, as a rule of, as some guiding principle, let's call it, when should we use the CMS on a site? So if I have a long list of items, or I have multiple pages with the same layout, it's a good indication that CMS might be beneficial here because it might make my design more efficient and my content management much more efficient. If I want to display the same content in multiple parts of my site, another indication that CMS is a good candidate. It's a good candidate for the CMS. And also, if I want to let my client easily create and update site content, the CMS is a great solution for that, and we'll see how in the demo. So in a minute, we'll jump into the demo. We'll use the same real estate example to show you how it really works in Wix Studio. This is what we will create. We will create a list of properties, which will allow us to navigate into the specific property and navigate between the properties. So in terms of the process, we will first map out our site. Then we'll set up a CMS collection. We will set up dynamic pages to reflect the content from that collection. Then we will connect page elements to the CMS, and we will show you how to manage content on the go when the site is ready to go. So just for the map, let's align what pages will we have in that site. So we will have the home page. We will have a page to list the entire properties. We will have one page per property. We want to have an about page and contact us. This is the structure we're going to do today. So where do we need dynamic content? So, of course, in the list of the properties, I want you to dynamically respond to the content that I have in the CMS. So it's going to be a dynamic page. Same for the page per property. I want to create a page dynamically based on the content. So it's going to be a dynamic page. And also, we will use a dynamic section in the home page, which is not a dynamic page, but the content in that section will be dynamic. So now to the demo. I'm now in a Wix Studio editor, and this is a new site. Okay. First, where is the CMS? I can see it here. It will always be here. First, in order to use it, I need to add it to my site. So let's add it to the site. The CMS is installed. I can start using it. I have two ways to start, with the preset or with adding content. For the sake of the demo, we'll start with building a collection, which means by adding content, we'll touch the preset in the end. So I start by adding a collection. Okay, I will create a collection of properties. I will hit create. Now my collection is empty, meaning I don't have any content in it. I just created the place to store my content. I already have a title field, which I'll keep. Now let's see how it looks. How do I add fields? I will add another field of a rich text because I want to create a field for my description, for the description of the property. I will give it a name. Now I have a field for the title, a field for the description. I want also to have an image for each one of my properties. So I'll add an image. I will call it main image. We also mentioned that we want to have featured properties. So I need to add a field for that. I will use Boolean for that, which is a yes or no field. I will write featured. And so on and so on. I can add more. I can add more fields to based on the structure that I want to have for my properties. I will add my first item. I can do it straight from the table. I can write the description. You can see because I chose rich text, so I have more options here to control the text formatting. I can add an image and mark it as featured if I want. So I can keep building the schema, the structure of my collection, adding more fields, and I can keep adding more properties, more content. So for the sake of demo, we have a ready-made collection with already content within. Okay, so now I've finished making this collection, and I want to display it on my site. But I need to understand it's still not displayed. So if I go to my site pages, I say I have a home page and have an about page, I have a contact us page. Let's now add the list of properties that we talked about. So I'll go to the pages panel, hit add new page, and here I have dynamic page. This is the pages that are based on a CMS. So I'll click add. I have the properties collection already selected because it's the only collection I have currently. And I will choose the list page. I'll add it to my site. So what happened now is that I have a dynamic list page that showcased all of my items from the collection. I had 10 items here. I see 10 items on the page. It's already connected. I can see the image of each one, the title of each one, the type, and the button. So what does it mean that it's connected to the CMS? I can use this button here, which is connected to CMS. The indication that it's blue means that content comes from the CMS. And if I hit it, for those of you who are familiar with the previous experience in Editor X, so you can see that now all of our panels of the CMS are integrated into the inspector to create a more fluent and better experience for you, more clean and not interrupting your stage. So we can see this image is connected to the properties collection. We will touch the dataset concept in a few minutes. And the image source comes from the main image. This was the field that I stored the content in. Same for the text. The text is connected to the properties collection to the property name. The rent is connected to the property type. So this is how it looks when it's connected. We will soon do it from scratch and you will see how to make these connections by yourself. So now we have this list of items and we have a read more that we want eventually that when we click on it, it will navigate into the specific item, to that specific property. It is still not connected because we still don't have that page. So let's go again to the pages panel and again add another dynamic page. I will add this time an item page because I want to show each item separately. And you see, since I already have content in my collection, it's already displayed in this page. I have a page here that shows the details of that property. I have title, I have the type, I have the image, and you can see that I can actually navigate between items here with this switcher to see the content of each one of my properties. Now let's see the power of that. If I now change the design of that content, of that text component, into some other font that I like, it's actually automatically on every page. On each property, I can see the change. I only need to do it once, and it's automatically for everyone. So what's left is to connect between those two. So let's go to the properties list again. I'll go to the Read More button, and I can click here or straight here. And I can see that for the button, I have two options to connect. I can connect the click action and the label. In this case, the label shouldn't be dynamic. I want it to be the same for all buttons. I want it to say Read More for everyone. So the label is not interesting. I don't want to connect it. But the click action is dynamic. It's supposed to be for the specific item. So I can see here that I can connect it to that dynamic page, which is properties item. I can select the behavior. In this case, I want it to be open in the current window. And now if we'll preview, and let's go to the Terry Street and click on Read More. It's just connected and navigating to that page. So that was pretty easy. I hope you also find it awesome as we. And now let's see what happens if I just add another item to my collection. So if I go here, under your collection, this is my collection properties. I want to add a new item, so I can do it through here. Let's call it new property. We won't make it featured, we will make it a by type. We can add an image. And for now, it's enough. In general, of course, we will fill all the fields. Now I just added the property, I did nothing else. Let's see what happens on my site. You can see the new property just immediately. It has this item added to the list. And now if we'll preview, remember I did nothing. I just added an item in the CMS. I'll click on Read More. My new property already has a page in my live site. It stores the content of that item. So we finished with the list page and we finished with the item page. Now we wanted to go to the home page and add a section with the featured properties. So let's go to the home page. Here I already have room to put the repeater or the list of my featured items. So let's see how it's done in a page which is not a dynamic page, it's a static page. So I'll go to the Add panel, add a repeater to the page. In that repeater, I want to have an image of the property. I would say I'm not touching the design at all now, just the functionality. Of course, the design is up to you. You can enjoy everything Wix Studio has to offer. So we have the title of the property. And for now, we'll just add a button. Where is my button? I can change the text to Read More as well, because I don't want it to be a dynamic content. It should be static, same for everyone. So now I have a repeater here. As we said, just a second, we're in the repeater, open the inspector. Just a second, I will start from French, sorry for that. Okay, so I have the repeater, okay? This is how it will look if you didn't do anything yet on that page. So it asked me if I want to show dynamic content on that element, and I do. In order to do that, I need to add a dataset. Okay, what is a dataset? it's a bit of an abstract concept. It's actually, we can look at it as the bridge between our collection and our page. Okay, we have to have this in-between creature in order to bring the content to that page, and in order to make some manipulation on the content only for that instance of the content without affecting our full list. And we'll see now. So I'm adding a dataset. It's pretty simple. I just need to choose which collection do I want to connect. In this case, it's properties. And I can also call it featured properties because this is the content it will display. Now you can see it's already reflecting, like I already see that it's connected to the collection because it already shows 11 items because this is the number of items I have in my collection. Now I need to still connect each one of the elements inside the repeater because I might have few image fields, I might have few text fields. I need to make this decision. So this image is connected to the main image. This title should be connected to the property name. Again, I'm not touching the design too much, just so we will understand the concept. So you can see I have this dynamic list, and the read more button, as we saw before, is connected to the property item. But we said that we want to only show the featured properties here. So now we have all properties. What we should do is actually filter our dataset. We don't want to filter the entire collection. We want to filter this specific instance. We don't want the filter to be applied also in the list page. We want it to be applied only here. So this is why the dataset is useful. I can go through the repeater. Everywhere I have this link to the dataset setting. And here I have an option to add filter to that dataset. So let's add a filter. We want the featured to be true. Okay, the field featured, is it featured? I want it to be true. If I add this filter, you can see now that I have only 2 items that are featured. If I'll click here on manage content, it will open the collection. And I can see really these are the 2 items that are marked as featured. And this is it. I have my section with my featured items in my static page. So now my site, I can say, is pretty much ready for the sake of the demo. And let's see how it looks from the other side, from your client side, when he comes to manage content. So we will open the dashboard. So here's the dashboard. This is what your client can see. And he can go here to the tab of the CMS. Here you can see, here I have only 1 collection. Potentially you can have more than 1. You can have 5, 6, 10 based on the based on the content of your site. I'll click on properties. And now you can see this is what he gets by default, but you can kind of make it more user-friendly for him. So we have a few features that you might be interested in. So here it's the table view, but you can also make a gallery view for him. Then it's really convenient to see what's the item that he wants to manage. And once he clicks on that item, he gets that form view, which is really useful and easy to add content to. I can also, for example, I can also have managed fields and then control the audio fields here. If I want the main image to be the first thing he sees, or I want to hide some fields for some reason that I don't want him to see. I can also add help text, which is very useful for our clients. For example, mark if you want it to appear on your homepage in free language. So you can see it just appears below the field. You can do it for each field. It really helps your client understand what are the restrictions or the instructions that you want them to follow. You can also use the list view. Also here, you can control which fields will be displayed. Will be displayed here, and will give him more orientation of what does he, again, what is he looking for. And now let's see, for example, if I'll go back to my table view. If I just mark my new property here as featured, so imagine you just tell your client, you want this to appear on your homepage. You don't really need me. You just need to make this mark in the collection. And then you go to the page and you'll see it. Sorry. It's just gonna appear on that homepage out of the box. You don't need to do anything for that. So in terms of managing content, it's really, really efficient. It makes your clients independent. They don't really need you. So I think it really frees you up to the important things of building sites. And so we'll just see it in action. You can see the new property just appears. I did nothing in the editor. So I hope you found it exciting as I did, as we do. And I think now it's a good time for your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noi. So let's dive into some of our top questions. So the first that we received is, can I give my client access only to the CMS and not to the editor?
Yes. So of course, under roles or permission of the editor, I'll open the dashboard, but meanwhile, so there is CMS section where you can actually define the role of your client, and you can give him access only to the CMS. So you can see it here under Add Collaborator. We have the CMS section. We have CMS Editor, which is only for content editing. And this user won't be able to delete collection, to delete fields, but he will only be able to add content and edit content versus the admin that can do everything.
Amazing. So the next one is, are there any CMS templates?
Great question. So now in Wix Studio, we still have only one template, but a very cool thing that I suggest that you will know, we have the presets. So a very good quick start, sorry for that again, it's using the presets. It's actually a combination of a collection already connected to the dynamic pages. It's a really quick start for you to use the CMS in your site. So I will show it in a minute. You can come here always. Just a second. Add a preset. And here I have ready-made templates of CMS. So you can see that if I add, for example, the project, I have this collection already with the structure. I can customize it as I wish. I can delete fields. I can add fields. I can add content. It comes with some demo content for you to just start designing. And if I close it, you can see I also have the list page with some design. Everything is pre-connected. And also the item page exists here as well. So it's really a good start for you if you want to start investigating and exploring and even building your site.
It's very cool. The next is, can you hide certain items from the live site?
Yes. So another cool thing that we have is actually, hope this is what we meant, but it's actually when I go to my collection, sorry, on the wrong side. When I go to my collection, I can have a setting of visible and hidden items. So it's really useful for you and your clients. So under the settings, I need to enable that I will let my clients or whoever manages the content to control item visibility. I can set the default of new items to be hidden. And then I get this field. If I'll mark this item as hidden, it means that it won't appear in my live site. So it's kind of a draft publish system that lets you control the visibility of the entire item. It will disappear both from the list, from any list, or from any page that it was connected to. And if I'll add new item, the default will be hidden. So no risk of adding non-completed items to my live site.
That's great. So the next is, running through the questions right now, looking for something that we get asked a lot. Can you show me a good example of how to use dynamic content to build a podcast page with HTML embeds?
Yes. So in general, the concept of using dynamic content and creating dynamic pages is the same. In terms of HTML embed, what we can do, we have a field that is allows us to do that, which is the rich content field. So if I want to embed an HTML, I need to use this type of field. I cannot call it however I want. I will keep it rich content for now. And then you can actually embed HTML here. And then you need to connect it on the other side of the editor, of course. And for that, you have a specific element under the CMS that you need to drag the rich content. Here it is. And then I can just connect it to that field. With the same process, I need to add data set to that page and connect it to that collection and to that specific field. But this rich content field really lets you add many type of content. You saw you have their socials and media and videos and like all in one. So we can see it again. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, store product. We'll cover that also in the advanced sessions for those of you who are going to join it.
Amazing. So the next issue is that we received a question that states, I often run into this issue when working with dynamic content repeaters. Many times I have an instance where I need a specific item in a repeater to have a slightly different design from the overall repeater template, such as the background color of a specific item being different from the rest. How do I accomplish this?
So that's a good question, and it's something we hear a lot. So currently it's only possible with code, but in terms of this conditional visibility or the ability to have conditions on how we display content from the collection, it's something we are aware of and we're working on it, and it's probably going to be addressed next year.
Okay, great. That's great news. How do I migrate databases from an existing site created in Editor?
So currently, the way to do that is using export and import. There is no way to share collections between sites. Also, eventually, like the Editor X sites will be migrated to Studio, so it's just a matter of time and patience. So the export and import is the best way to do that and to achieve it as like at the moment.
Okay, great. And I think this might be our final question, depending on time. Can you also just add properties via importing? And this is a question that we got during the session.
Again, what's the question?
Can you also just add properties via importing?
Yes, of course. You can, through the import, you can just upload the list of your properties. I guess you're referring to the example I showed. So by importing items, it just will add more items to the collection and to your site. I hope it answered the question.
Okay, great. And I think we have a little bit more time, so I'll make room for one more question. Can you add more data fields later as your needs your need definition changes and evolves? How will that impact previous lists?
Of course, you can always add more fields and customize it as your needs grow. What you need to remember is that by only adding the fields, nothing really happens until you connect them to your site. So you can go and add fields and add more content, and then you need to add the relevant elements on your page, connect them to that field, and then it will appear on your site. But you can always keep managing, changing the collection as your site grows and your business grows. It's totally up to you.
Okay, great. So I think that those are all the questions that we received that we have an answer for. One moment.
So I will use this time for a second, Louis, because there is one slide that I jumped, that I skipped, that I do want you to have in mind. So when you recognize that you need dynamic content, we do suggest to follow those steps, just to have it in mind for those of you who are new to that concept. So first, map your site needs and understand where do you really need the content to be dynamic. You should create the collection in the CMS if it's one or many. You should add content to those collections, of course. You can start with some demo content while you design, and eventually your client will put the real content. Then, as I said, you need to display that content on the site. This is in the editor side, the connection to add the data sets, to connect it to data, to connect it to the CMS. Then you hand it over to your client, and then the managing of the content is being done in the CMS, in the dashboard, and also you can manage it from the mobile app, from the owner app. So it's another good value that we provide you and your client.
Great. Thank you so much. So I think that's all we have for today. If you have any questions we haven't answered, feel free to go to the new Wix Studio forum and join the Wix Studio Discord community, and feel free to ask away. Our product managers will be more than happy to help you out. And of course, our Academy is always there as a resource for you to get more information. The recording of this webinar will be uploaded to our Academy and YouTube channel. Also, if you have any feedback, please let us know in the feedback form. That survey link will be shared in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks again for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you.